Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're checking out another Stone Roses classic. This one's Driving South, and you're going to need to bring out your best overdrive pedal for this one because the riff is absolutely huge. Anyway, I've got a massive thank you to my Patreon community who voted for this lesson. If you'd like to get involved in the channel and vote on my next lesson, please click the link below and check out my Patreon page. And with that in mind, give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. So before we begin, let me just run you through the sound. Today I'm using a 2019 Les Paul 60 spec, and I'm going to be playing it on the bridge pickup. I'm going to be using my usual combination of overdrive, which is a DoD Looking Glass combined with an exotic super sweet boost pedal. Now we're not going to be messing around today, we're going to be boosting the gain all the way up to the max to about 5 o'clock on the high gain setting. For the bass and treble, I'm also going to be dialing those in at about 4 and 5 o'clock. The only other thing I'm going to be using here is a little bit of reverb from the amp. Alright then, let's jump straight in and have a look at the introduction riff to Driving South. It just sounds like this. And this one's going to be quite a workout for your middle finger. We're going to be doing lots of bends on the low E string, so if you need to give yourself a break, please do. Anyway, we're going to be starting on the 3rd of the low E, and we're going to play that and we're going to bend it down. We're then going to take our index finger and play the 2nd of the D. Afterwards, we're going to bring in our pinky finger to the 5th of the E, and we're going to pull that off to the 3rd, where our middle finger is going to be, and then we're going to pull that off to the open E. From here, we're going to go back to the 3rd of the E, and we're going to play that, bend it down and pull it off. And then we're going to go back to the 3rd of the E again. This time we're going to play it, bend it down, and then play the open E as opposed to pulling it off. Notice the difference between the two there. Altogether so far we've got this. From here, we're going to go back to the 3rd of the E, and then we're going to move to the 5th, back to the 3rd, and then open. And at this point, we're going to be exactly halfway through our riff. And a bit quicker. We're then going to go round a second time. We'll start as usual, 3rd of the E, bending down, moving over to the 2nd of the D, then pulling off 5th of the E to 3rd, then open. Then we'll go back to the 3rd of the E, playing that, bending it down and pulling it off. And at this point, we're going to go back to the 3rd of the E, and we're going to play it 3 times and then the 5th once. And I'll just play that again. We're then going to go around a second time, and we're going to start it same as we did before, 3rd of the E, bending it down, moving over to the 2nd of the D, then bringing our pinky finger over to the E string, 5th fret, pulling that off to the 3rd, and then 3rd to open, and then going back to the 3rd of the E, playing that, bending it down and pulling it off. And at that point, we're going to go back to the 3rd of the E, but this time we're going to play it 3 times and give it a little bit of vibrato, and then move over to the 5th. We're going to play that through 4 times. At this point, we're going to take it down 1 string to the A string, and everything is going to be the same. We're then going to go immediately back to the E string, and this time we're going to play a slightly shorter version of the riff. This time you'll notice we'll finish on the 3rd of the E, bending it down and pulling it off, and we'll let the E note ring out. And I'll just play that again. And at this point we're going to move into the turnaround, which is just going to sound like this. And to start that, we are going to be playing the 5th of our A, and we're going to play the note with a bit of vibrato. We're then very quickly going to move over to the 4th of the G, and I'd really recommend using your middle finger for the 5th of the A and then index for the 4th of the G. Anyway, we're then going to do another massive jump. We're going to move over to the 2nd of the D, and we're going to play that, bend it up, bring it down, pull it off, and land at the 2nd of the A. And we're going to repeat that again. We're then going to play the open D, then go down to the 2nd of the A to 1st to open. Then we'll move over to the 3rd of the E, moving up to the 5th. So far we've got this. From here we're going to play this. And that's going to be 3 on the 5th of the E. Then 3 to 5, sliding up to 7. And then we're going to go into this back and forth section where we're going to play the 7th of the E and 5th of the A twice. It just goes like this. So like I said, it will be 7th of the E, then 5th of the A, 7th of the E, 5th of the A. And then we're going to play the 7th of the A twice, back to the 5th once, then playing it again and hammering it back on. Then we'll play the open E. We're then going to play the 7th of the A again. We'll play it twice, then pause, then a 3rd time. To finish off the turnaround, we are going to go down to the 2nd fret and we're going to do a hammer on, so playing the open A onto the 2nd fret, then open D onto the 2nd fret and then pulling it off. Then we'll move back to the 2nd of the A, playing that and pulling it off. Then the 3rd of the E, playing that and pulling it off. And all together. Now that we've got the main riff out of the way, let's dive in and have a look at the verse and chorus. We're going to start with something like this, and I'm just going to play this from the end of the riff. So we're going to be starting simply with the 5th of the A, and we're going to be playing that and sliding it up to the 7th while also playing the low E string. We've then got this really bluesy run to play. And we are going to be playing that with our middle finger on the 10th of the low E. And then index finger playing the D and G strings at the 9th fret. Playing that twice. We're then going to do it a third time. This time it will be 10th of the E and then just the 9th of the G. We're then going to play the 9th of the G a second time. And then take it down 2 frets to the 7th fret, and we're going to play that twice. Over to the 9th of the D, and we're going to play that twice. Then we're going to play the 8th once and the 7th once. From here we are going to do a string rake, and then we are going to move up to the 12th fret of the G, B and E. And then we're going to do another string rake and again play the 12th of the G, B and E. And we're going to let that ring out for slightly longer on the second time. Anyway, after that we're then going to immediately jump down to the 4th of the G, and we're going to play it once and pause for just a moment, then we'll play it a second time. Then we'll play the 3rd twice and the 2nd twice. Then we'll play the open G once and the 2nd of the D once. So far together we've got this. And from here we're going to play this. So we're going to be staying around on the 2nd of our D. We're just going to let it ring out. You can add a little bit of vibrato if you like. And then we're going to move over to the 2nd of the G. We're going to play it and then pull it off. And then we'll immediately go back on with 2 fingers this time, and we're going to play it and bend it up, and again we can give it a bit of vibrato. Afterwards we're going to play the open G, hammering onto the 2nd and pulling it off. Then going to the 2nd of the D and pulling it off. And then we're going to go into a mini riff on the low E string. It just goes like this. And that's going to be 3rd of the E, playing that and then pulling it off. We're then going to play the open E, then we're going to pause and play it a second time before doing another 3rd of the E and pulling it off. And then we'll play another open E. Together. From here we're going to be moving back up the neck around the 10th fret, and we're going to play this. And for that we're going to start with an open E, coming off the back of our riff down at the 3rd fret. And we'll do the 10th of the E and 9th of the D and G twice. And then we're going to move over to the B string, 10th fret, and we're going to play that and bend it up. We're then going to bring our index finger over to the 7th of the high E, and then move back to the 10th of the B, pulling it off to the 8th. We're then going to play the 8th of the B again, hammering it onto the 10th and pulling it off. We're then going to move over to the 9th of the G, pulling that off to the 7th, and landing at the 9th of the D. And a bit quicker. From here we're going to go into a little chordy section where we're going to play a B major and an A major with a couple of riffs in between. It just sounds like this. So we're coming off the back of the 9th of the D, and we're bringing in the rest of the triad, and that's going to be 8th of the G and 7th of the B. We're then going to slide in to the 8th of the G by itself, and we're going to play the 7th of the B. We're going to do it 3 times, and on the 3rd time we're going to hammer on and pull off the 9th fret. We'll then move back to the 8th of the G and slide it down 2 frets to the 6th. We're then going to pause for just a moment on the 6th of the G, then we're going to bring in the rest of our A major, which is going to be the 7th of the D and also the 5th of the B. We're then going to do a little string rake and then play it again. And then we're going to slide back up to the 8th of the G and then 7th of the B twice this time. Hammer on and pull off on the 9th fret. Back to the 8th of the G. So we've got this so far. We'll then go back to our starting position and then play our little riff again. So that's 3 times on the 7th of the B. Then at the end of that we're going to go back to the 7th of the B, play it and bend it up a half. All together, that section. From here we're going to go back into the main riff and we'll play it through once. Once again, verse and chorus 1 sound like this. Let's finish part number 1 by having a look at verse number 2 and chorus number 2. Now this is going to be largely the same as verse number 1. We've got a couple of variations here. Check this out. Let's go through some of those variations then. So I played the little riff leading us into verse number 2, and then I did an extra third of the E pull off. I'm then going to continue the riff as normal. Now at this point I'm going to go down to the second of the G, and I'm going to play that and bend it up and then play the open B. I'm then going to play the second of the G and open 3 times before resolving to the second of the D. Now, if you want to, you could also play a slightly more complicated version of that as well, which would go like this. So that time I did the second of the G and opened twice. Then I played the open G again and then hammered onto the second of the G and then did 3 pull-offs. At which point I'll resolve to the second of the D. And once again. We're then going to continue on as normal. Now at this point we are going to go back into our introduction riff, but it's going to be slightly different this time. We're going to move back into it and play the shortened version to begin with, where we finish with the third of the E doing the pull off. Then we'll go back into it another 2 times as normal. Then we're going to jump over to the A string, playing it as normal, and then back to the E string with the shortened version once again. Check this out. And at this point we'll go into the turnaround again, same as normal. So that concludes part number 1 of my lesson on Driving South by the Stone Roses. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed it. We're going to be covering the guitar solo in part number 2.